Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is Karma Speaks back with another video. Today we are reacting to Nancy Sanchez. It says, I'm 32 years old, unemployed, and not where I thought I would be. Now, this one just came up in my feed. It's actually a year old, but this video came up in my feed, and I thought it'd be something interesting that we could react to together and kind of see what this lady is going through and, give a little bit of commentary on it.
I'm 32 years old with absolutely no direction in life, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I want to talk about it because I miss old school YouTube where people were raw and vulnerable and really talked about their everyday problems and made everybody feel less alone and more human. So I want to contribute to that. So this is my way of contributing to all of you and the internet that there's real life stuff going on besides any of the fakeness that's on the internet that makes you feel like crap. I want you to be able to relate and feel seen and heard. I haven't posted here on the internet for a year. I was laid off from a really good paying job a year ago. And when I tell you that I was not ready to see how tough the job market was gonna be, I was not ready, girl. I was not ready at all. I struggled to find a job for 6 months, and I would set aside some time every single day to apply for jobs in the morning. And then
This was a year ago, and the job market was already so fucked up. Pardon my tongue, but it's like a year ago, the job market was already fucked up to where this person was laid off for, what did she say, 6 months? Like, not having a job for 6 months is crazy, especially when you got bills to pay, you got rent. Like that, at least what I could tell, it looks like that's probably her own spot. If not, maybe she might be renting from her parents, but it looks like her own spot, so she's probably got to pay that rent. That's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I would feel so tired and so defeated because I wouldn't get a reply. I feel like those jobs were probably made up. I would get ghosted. I only had a couple of interviews and then heard absolutely nothing. When I tell you this was the toughest job market.
And that's the thing about the job market, or that I've noticed with jobs, is that I've never been able to get a job through like the whole interview process. Like you apply on Indeed or Glassdoor or whatever it is. I've never been able to just get a job through that. Like I always went through a temp agency before I started my business. Like I would always go through a temp agency to get a job because anytime I would apply to fast food or any entry level like position for a teenager, just never got a call back, never got anything back. And looking back at it, I think obviously my resume was probably terrible, but also I didn't follow up. Maybe that was something like, you need to follow up more because I do it with my clients now. But, prior to I didn't know, but I would apply to like tens and probably hundreds of jobs at the time. And I would get no calls back. So that was something that I definitely noticed. Like getting a job is really hard.
I was getting so desperate to find a job because although I was getting unemployment at the time, obviously it expires at the 6 month mark. And I'm like, it's unbelievable to me that I've been given 6 months and I still haven't got a job. One of those jobs that I had even applied to was down the street from my house. It was at home. It's a home decor like superstore. I'm sure you've heard of it. I was so desperate to get any job that I started applying at a lot of retail jobs because I am not too good to work anywhere, okay? I am not too good to work anywhere. I will apply anywhere. If I need the income, you need the income, and a job is a job, right? I applied, I did the interview. The manager really liked me, but he's like, your resume is so good. This is an entry level position. You're basically overqualified, so I'm sorry. I came home, I felt like nobody saw my potential. Nobody wanted to work with me. I know what I have to give to anybody really. I'm a very caring person. I'm hardworking, and I felt like nobody could see me. That's just what it felt like. So for 6 months I struggled, and then one of my neighbors ended up getting me a referral interview for her company that she worked for. It's a home building company. Just that foot in the door to get the interview was all I needed. They interviewed me for an hour. They were super, super sweet. That was probably the toughest interview I've had, but It was all good vibes. They liked me. They offered me the job. I did not know it was going to be a temp position. I still took it because I needed a job and I thought it would be a good opportunity. And it was. I loved the girls that I worked with. It was all a bunch of girls and it was amazing. It was an amazing position. The only thing that sucked was the fact that it was temporary. It was really important for me to get health benefits and PTO and all of the things that you ask for when, you're applying for a job. And it was really important for me to get a permanent position before even looking for other jobs. I know I didn't want to leave this, but before even looking, I talked to my manager and I told her, hey, as you know, this is really important for me. Is there something you can do? Is a company thinking about hiring me on permanently? She said at the time, they weren't able to hire permanently, so they were just going to keep extending my temporary position. Based on business needs, they could bring me on, but they could also let me go at any time. I really wanted a permanent position. I ended up applying for this consulting firm. I was the assistant to the owner that owns a firm, and when I tell you that this was the toughest person I had ever had to work with, his personality was almost like childlike, but also bipolar. And he had absolutely no respect for his employees. I would pretty much get yelled at whenever he wanted. He would be happy, and then in the next minute or two, he was angry, and then he would have an outburst, and then he was happy again, and then he was singing, and it was just a total mind F, okay? Never met anybody like him. I was trying to stick it out as long as possible because I'm like, well, I know I need the income. I want to save a little bit more money and this could be a good opportunity. It got to the point where my mental health and physical health was being affected. I no longer had any desire.
And there you go. That's why I will not be ever working for somebody else ever again, because it's this shit right here. It's having the boss that's like a complete child and like, just to keep it like blunt, is an asshole. Like that's real rap. Like there's so many that's real rap. There's so many like different employers that are just like so like immature and like so entitled, and it's just a terrible experience to be in. And that's why I personally like left the workforce. Like I've been a business owner longer than I've worked a job, and I would not change it for anything else because I work for myself and I'm nice to myself. I'm not an asshole to myself. So that's the biggest part for me. So, that's very interesting. What I did notice though is that, she said that she was very set on this whole PTO and whatever else. And, I get it, I guess, but like it's a job. And the thing is that I feel like a lot of people nowadays have a lot of entitlement when it comes to a job or as in an employee position. And I've only gained this, I guess, insight or outlook after owning a business, because it's like, would I be giving anybody, paid time off, or would I be eager to give them paid time off and all this and that? Probably not, especially not somebody that hasn't, earned a certain amount of like tenure and stuff like that. Like, you haven't been working with my company for 3 years. I've put in a lot of work and effort, and you're just kind of coming on trying to do this whole like, yeah, let me get paid time off, let me get this, let me get that. Let's slow the roll. How about you stay in the position as a temp or whatever for a year or so, or maybe 6 months, whatever the time frame is. And then after that, after I see you're a good worker and that, you continually bring me more revenue, then we could talk about the aspects of paid time off and leave and, this and that, right? So I always found that very interesting. People that are very entitled, or like, I don't want to say entitled because it sounds like a bad word, but it's like people that expect so much from a job when it's a job. You're working for somebody. It's a job. It's never going to be as good as if you're, your own boss, where you get to give yourself all the benefits you want. If you want to take paid time off, or if you want to just take time off, guess what? You could just take time off. And I don't think people realize, okay, you get paid time off, but the business still needs to make money. If you're not helping out to make the business money, how's the business going to pay you your paid time off? So we have to start to think about that. But let's keep it going.
In coming home and making dinner and enjoying my evening. I would come home, probably cry, probably eat, and then go to sleep. And this was an 8 to 5 job. So sometimes I'd be in bed super early just because I was done.
Okay, pause. There's a comment that I'm reading right now that just says join the Air Force. I was in the same state. They gave me a job, training, housing. Look, I'm not going to say what to do, but what I know is that I would never join the military for a number of reasons, but I would never join the military out of desperation because you are quite literally locking yourself in something for 4 years minimum and then 4 years of potentially being called back into the position. And I'm like low key claustrophobic. So I don't like being trapped in positions. I don't like not being able to move or like, just have mobility with my life. So being in the military is like one of the scariest things for me. Not because the whole, you might go to war thing. No, the scariest part is being in a position that you quite literally cannot get out of and you're forced to be there for a certain period of time. And that's also why I don't like jobs, is because I like to be able to like pivot. I don't want to just be out of place from this time to that time every single day and have this obligation. And if I'm not there, then I get hit with hella repercussions. Can't do it. When I own my business, I set the hours that I want to be there. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do a shoot from, let's just say 2 to 4 o'clock, or from this time to that time, and then that's it. Or if I want to cut it early, I cut it. There are plenty of times where I cut a shoot early, or I do it faster. And I'm like, all right, that's it. We done. That's it. Pay me the $1,000. We're done. That's it. So very interesting. I don't want to make this video too long, but she's 32, unemployed, and not where she thought she'd be. I mean, man, 32 is still young. 32 is still a baby. I'm 22. That's 10 years older than me. At 32, I would like to be very far in life, but also I know at 32, you're just getting started. You still got 50 years to go. You want to be at the very beginning of you really like taking on a lot of responsibility. So that's having your own crib, starting a family, right? Marriage, babies, all that kind of stuff. But don't put too much pressure on yourself at 32. Like 32 is just getting started. I'm going to put pressure on me, but for the vast majority of people, 32 is baby, and it's not something to stress about. And we need to start having more financial independence, not just from a partner and not just from the world. I mean financial independence from a job, because one of the biggest fears of mine is just depending solely on a job, right? Or an income from one source, because that person can let you go and not use you for, that they could just cut you off. And as she said, it's one of the hardest things to find a job. You can't just quit and then find something new the next day, or you'll go from getting paid $40 an hour to $15 an hour if that's the case, because you'll go work at McDonald's or you'll go work at a warehouse making 15 an hour. So a lot of times we got to start to taking this into account while we're in the position, while we still are getting that corporate bag or getting that job bag, while building something on the side. And so that's why a lot of times I'll just tell people like, yo, hold on to the job for a little bit, but also build your thing on the side, because you need to be able to make some money with that. You can't just depend on, the job over here, because they'll cut you off in an instant. I've done it. I've hired out contractors, and if they're not doing something up to par, or if they're a little bit too expensive for me, like I don't need you. It's a convenience to have you, but I don't need you. And that's what I think people need to get a grasp of. A lot of times, the position that you're in, you are a convenience, but not a need. You're not a necessity. So once we start to take on that mindset, we realize, okay, how can I be a necessity to the world? It's probably not going to be through the job, but through building something that I have a unique value position in, that I can present to the outward world, and make some money off of. But I'll leave it at that. I appreciate anybody that watched this, man. We're gonna try to keep this one rolling. But yeah, definitely gonna have some more reactions and some more videos in the future. Appreciate anybody that watched this. Peace.